China has 1.4 billion people, 289 million football fans, more than England, Spain, Germany, Italy, and France combined, and has qualified for the World Cup exactly once. That was 2002. Since then, tens of billions of dollars have poured into the sport, and results have gotten worse, not better. Today, China's men's team ranks below Curaçao, a Caribbean island of 158,000 people. So where did $50 billion actually go? In June 2002, China's men's national football team walked onto the World Cup stage for the first, and so far only, time. Drawn into Group C alongside Brazil, Turkey, and Costa Rica, the team faced the world's best with a sense of historic expectation. But 90 minutes against Costa Rica produced a 2-0 defeat. 4 days later, Brazil delivered a 4-0 lesson with goals from Rivaldo, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, and Roberto Carlos. The final group match brought a 3-0 loss to Turkey. 3 matches, 3 defeats, not a single goal scored. 9 conceded. The campaign ended at the group stage, and China's World Cup dream was over almost as soon as it began. That 2002 appearance, brief and bruising, became the fixed point against which every later ambition would be measured. For a nation with a population surpassing 1 billion and a fan base counted in the hundreds of millions, this was the only time the men's team reached football's highest level. The numbers from that summer, 0 wins, 0 goals, 9 against, set a benchmark that still defines the limits of Chinese football's international standing. FIFA's expansion to 48 teams should have lowered the bar for entry, not raised it. Asia's direct World Cup slots doubled from 4 to 8, a change designed to give more nations a chance on football's biggest stage. Yet, when the list of qualified teams came out for the 2026 tournament, China was missing again. 9 Asian nations punched their ticket: South Korea, Japan, Australia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Iraq, Jordan, and Uzbekistan. China, with the world's largest population and a fan base of nearly 300 million, watched from the sidelines. The scale of underperformance is hard to exaggerate. Curaçao, with a population smaller than a city district in Beijing, around 158,000, sits 10 places above China in the FIFA rankings and will make its World Cup debut. Cape Verde, an island nation with fewer than 600,000 residents, also qualified. These countries succeeded with a fraction of China's resources, infrastructure, and market size. The paradox grows sharper when considering the political will behind China's football ambitions. Since 2013, President Xi Jinping has made football a personal priority, framing it as a national project worthy of state support and global attention. Billions in public and private money have been funneled into stadiums, academies, and marquee signings. Yet, with more slots available and more money spent than ever before, the results have only grown more embarrassing. China's failure to qualify isn't just a sporting disappointment, it is a glaring question mark over the entire model that promised scale and investment could buy international respect. The numbers don't lie. The world's most populous country, outspent and outmaneuvered by nations a fraction its size, and still searching for a way in. Li Tie's resignation in December 2021 came on the heels of another failed World Cup qualifying campaign, but what followed was not the usual coaching carousel. For 14 months, Li vanished from public view. His reappearance in a 2024 state television documentary stunned the football world. There, in a stark confession, he admitted paying roughly $421,000 to secure his position as national team head coach. The revelations spiraled further. Li acknowledged taking more than $16 million in bribes, some tied directly to player selection, selling influence over who would wear the national shirt. The legal consequences were swift and severe: a 20-year prison sentence, stripping him of any future in Chinese football. But the rot did not stop with one coach. Chen Xuyuan, president of the Chinese Football Association, was handed a life sentence for accepting bribes exceeding $11 million. Chen's tenure had been marked by lofty promises of reform and transparency. Instead, the evidence revealed a federation where cash and connections determined careers, not merit or results on the pitch. These scandals were not isolated incidents. They exposed a system where money and personal networks corroded every level of decision-making, undermining both the credibility and effectiveness of reforms. Billions in investment and sweeping policy changes meant little when top officials could be bought. The story of Tie and Chen Xuyuan stands as a stark reminder. Without honest governance, even the world's largest market and deepest pockets cannot build a winning team. Xi Jinping's vision for Chinese football began with three simple targets: qualify for the World Cup, host the tournament, and ultimately win it. These goals, first outlined in 2011, were not just sporting ambitions. They became the blueprint for a national development project. In March 2015, the State Council released a sweeping reform plan that promised to transform the football landscape. The targets were staggering: expand the number of football-focused schools from around 5,000 to 50,000 by 2025, build 20,000 new training centers, and add 7,000 stadiums across the country. The message was clear: no expense would be spared. The financial surge that followed was unprecedented. Chinese investors spent more than $2 billion snapping up stakes in European clubs between 2015 and 2016, a move designed to buy both expertise and prestige. At home, Chinese Super League clubs unleashed a spending spree, dropping $451 million on transfer fees in 2016 alone. The transfer market became a showcase for China's ambition and its appetite for global attention. Nowhere was this more obvious than in the signing of Oscar, the Brazilian midfielder who left Chelsea for Shanghai SIPG at just 25 years old. The deal cost a reported $60 million, with Oscar earning a weekly salary close to $400,000. These figures stunned even the most established European clubs. Money flowed into stadiums, academies, and headline-grabbing transfers. The hope was that investment on this scale would buy not just players, but a winning culture. Yet, as the numbers kept climbing, the results on the pitch refused to budge. The world watched as China spent its way to the top of the financial tables, only to fall further behind where it mattered most. The financial engine of Chinese football began to seize during the pandemic. Lockdowns in 2020 and 2021 choked off match-day revenue and sponsorships, exposing how fragile the economics of the Chinese Super League had become. Jiangsu FC, fresh from lifting the league trophy in 2020, was gone within a year. No buyer, no bailout, just a statement announcing the club would cease operations. Guangzhou Evergrande, once the face of China's football boom, reported annual losses between $155 million and $310 million. By 2021, its football arm was valued at $0, another casualty of its parent company's debt crisis. The crisis deepened in January 2026 when a nationwide crackdown on match fixing and referee corruption swept through the league. Authorities issued lifetime bans to 73 individuals, including club executives and referees. 13 clubs faced penalties. 9 of 16 Super League teams started the 2026 season with negative points, their seasons sabotaged before a ball was kicked. The collapse was no longer hypothetical. It was measured in vanished clubs, empty stadiums, and a league table rewritten by scandal. China's FIFA ranking tells its own story. From 82nd in 2016 to 91st in 2026, now trailing nations like Zambia, Uganda, and Haiti. Behind these numbers sits a deeper problem, one that money alone cannot fix. According to the Chinese Football Association, nearly 1 million amateur players are registered nationwide, but only a fraction continue past their early teens. By age 14 to 16, about a quarter drop out, and the sharpest decline comes just as academic pressure peaks. For many families, the Gaokao, the National University Entrance Exam, remains the ultimate test. Yang Cheng, a leading voice in Chinese football, describes a pattern. Children who love the game are often steered away as soon as secondary school begins. The logic is stark. The odds of making it as a professional footballer are lower than gaining admission to Tsinghua or Peking University, both elite institutions with acceptance rates that hover near zero. For most, football is a risk. Academics are the safer bet. The result is a thinning pipeline, with few players reaching the top and almost none breaking into foreign leagues. Even the experiment of naturalizing foreign-born talent has failed to deliver lasting change. At its core, the project to build a football powerhouse runs up against a culture that prizes academic success above all else. When the decision comes, books or the ball, parents and children are forced to choose. In a country of 1.4 billion, the real bottleneck is not talent or money, but the priorities set by society itself. Today, China's football dream collides with the realities of culture, incentives, and institutional design. In a nation where exam scores shape futures, talent often leaves the pitch for the classroom. If you had to choose for your child, academics or football, which would you pick? Subscribe for more stories like this.